Hello everyone and welcome to Magickal Me. I'm Jamie Mendez, Oracle Intuitive, here with our weekly Moon Day reading for the week of August 17th, 2026. So the way that these readings work is that I utilize my intuitive abilities as well as oracle or tarot cards to connect with the highest source of love to bring forward a message of guidance or insight and empowerment for us all, for the collective, for the week ahead, and just giving us a little bit of insight into the energy and what it is that we almost need to know and what is within our power to work with and change. And so with that said, it works in divine timing. Those meant to receive this message will find themselves here, whether you're watching it months from now, weeks from now, or on the day and the moment that this was uploaded and recorded. You're here exactly when it is going to resonate with you in your life. So as with all readings, they are subject to interpretation, so you can take what resonates and aligns and leave what does not. I am in no way, shape, or form meant to be the end all, say all to anything that may come forward. So with that said, again, I connect with only the highest source of all love to bring forth just as a way of helping us all. These are not individualized personal readings, though I do offer those. If you would like to book one with me, you can absolutely send me a message or email me at jamiemendez32@gmail.com, and we can set something up and we'll go over the fees as well as the different readings that I offer. So with that said, let's go ahead and get right on into it. So I hope you've all had a very magical weekend. I know I was not here last week to do the reading, but I did have to work. So that will happen from time to time where I will not be able to make it work on Mondays. So gonna go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, let's just connect into sacred space, asking us all to just close our eyes, take a nice deep breath in, and release the breath through your mouth, grounding your energy, relaxing your body, unclenching your jaw and dropping your shoulders, placing your hand upon your heart as you come into your own sacred center, your own feeling space. We connect into the here and now and set the intention that we open to receive divine messages of guidance and insight from the highest source of all love that will assist us in aligning with our highest and greatest good only for the week of August 17th, 2026. All right, with that said, I've been really drawn to working with my Oracle of Shapeshifters this week, and this is by Lucy Cavendish. This is an oldie, but a goodie. I actually really love some of the original Oracle card decks that first started coming out onto the scene. So if you're with me, give me a heart or a thumbs up. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and see what it is that comes forward for us all. What is it that we are all in most need of knowing this week of August 17th as a collective? Just gonna do it over here so we don't have a flyer. Come on, go out. Oh, there we go. Ooh, very interesting card. Okay, it says, a time to say goodbye. Something is about to end for now. And it is a 13. So really interesting, fun Snapple fact about the number 13. And I don't mean to degrade it by saying Snapple fact, but it's a very interesting bit of information that a lot of people may not be aware of. 13 tends to get a superstition or stigma wrapped around it due to it being Friday the 13th and somewhere along the line. I won't specifically say where along the line. It was dubbed as an unlucky day or unfortunate experiences. But prior to that stigma being put out into the collective, it was actually a very magical, powerful number. A lot of ancient cultures believed in steps to ascension. And some, I want to say even specifically the Egyptian, believed in 12 steps to ascension or 12 keys to ascension that we had to claim, or 12 steps on a ladder to ascension. And once we were able to retrieve those keys that worked within that was about working within our own level of consciousness, our own self-awareness, our own shadows, our own karmic cycles and woundings, and lessons that we're just meant to learn here. Once we retrieve the lessons, that we would attain ascension through achieving 13. The 13 number then was meant to represent the attainment or the all. So it's like ascending to love, if you will, or there can be many levels within a level, right? So it can get very, very complex. But just to give you a bit of more of an understanding, the 13 being an incredibly sacred number, also very associated with the sacred feminine aspect of source love or creator energy. And that being, connected, you can see that in like the original 13 lunar months of the year, and on that were originally meant to be on the calendar before it got changed to a solar calendar. And that a woman would align her menses with those 13 moons. So very connected into the sacred feminine. Even Mary Magdalene was believed to be the 13th apostle of Yeshua or Jesus. And so, depending upon what you want to believe or connect with, 13 is a very powerful number, contrary to the superstition. So we are stepping up, leveling up into a space of attainment, arrival. And that's pretty powerful. If you did break the 13 down, numerically speaking, in numerology, 4 would represent the number of structure, stability, new foundation, right? Roots, home, like the 4 areas and corners of your life. So, and those being like relationship, family, home, career, or even yourself. So you can see that with the 4 directions, where this is all kind of going, that we're ready to level up to the next chapter. And this isn't something that I feel like is new. I do feel like the last couple of times I've done Moonday, it was really prepping us, showing us that this year is a very powerful time, especially considering we're in the second half of the year where a lot of the groundwork had been being done to, let's say, clear out the old cycles and now allow for new growth. But not only has that new growth occurred, we are now ready to move on or move forward, if you will. Okay, so a time to say goodbye. And you see that it doesn't look, while maybe, elicit some bit of sad feelings, this circumstance that may be playing out in your life. It is, they're doing so not in a negative way. They're doing so in a very loving way. This fairy being here is hugging her dragon companion and saying, like, I do recognize that maybe it's time for us to grow in our individual journeys. So we have to step away from one another for a time, if not permanently, right? So this is actually something to be celebrated because it shows that you have done the work. You've done what was asked of you, whether you recognized it or not. And you are ready to soar beyond the level of comfort that you've known or grown to know. And so we have this beautiful opening, if you will, which can feel incredibly scary. We have this beautiful opening of a new way, if you will, because just like the cycle of death, interestingly, I forgot I didn't even mention that the 13 is associated with the death card in tarot. And in tarot, we understand that it's not on the surface level that death is speaking of. It's speaking of the death of the old, a necessary ending for transformation. The death card is also associated with Scorpio energy, and Scorpio is known to be the master alchemist because it is meant to die and be reborn many times in one life. So it's all about transformation here with this energy this week. And you may have already closed the doors on some of these experiences. So we may not necessarily be saying goodbye as much as we are now experiencing the part that comes after we said goodbye. So think about that. If you open up a door, in order for you to walk through that door, you have to be willing to walk away from what exists on the side of the door that you're on so that you can walk into what exists on the other side of the door. So this is, the goodbye may have already been us making that decision. It may have already been us closing that door, or I'm sorry, opening the door for the new. This is the part, is what I feel like, that you've actually already opened the door and walked through it and closed it behind you. So what comes after that is but to walk forward into a very unfamiliar new experience. And we're beginning to shape or create the foundation of this new paradigm and life that we are meant to embody, or role that we're meant to embody. This can be anything, guys. This could be a relationship that's just been running its course. This could be business stuff, work related. This could be just identity and parts of yourself that you just recognize you no longer align with. And so you're really embracing, not only have you begin to change and make changes in your life, but you are fully acclimating to those new changes now. So really quickly, I like to kind of sometimes glance at the bottom of the deck and just see, ooh, it's the first time I didn't even look at it. Funny, the black cat is also the same superstition associated with Friday. Do we have a Friday the 13th coming up next month or something? Because like this is pretty eerie. Black cats get another superstition for being representative of bad luck, and that is the furthest thing from the truth that there is. The color black represents power. It represents protection. It also represents the void, which is a place of no thing, which means it's a place of everything simultaneously. So all can be birthed from this space, right? Cats are incredibly magical companions and guardians. They represent, especially black cats, they actually, contrary to what that superstition that came about at the same time as the 13th, it represents like fortunate opportunities, good fortune, positive omens and blessings. So it's actually the opposite when a black cat crosses your path. It is more of a heads up that something blessed is entering your life, that to pay attention to what is coming in. And that cat is putting you kind of like on alert in a good way. And also all cats are sacred, that they are guardians that walk between this world and the spirit world. Therefore, they can protect us from the unseen, and that is what cats do for us. And they also are incredibly powerful healers. So the card itself says the black cat, lost magic, atonement, rebalance, and it's a 3. So what comes after? What is the number of creation but the number 3, right? The Trinity number, the attainment of the as above, so below, bringing it together, activating this divine alchemic birthing energy here, if you will. So you've got this opportunity to, it says rebalance, lost magic. It feels to me like a coming back home to yourself in a way that you haven't seen in a very long time. And even though this is very new and unfamiliar, there's something incredibly familiar about it. Interesting, black cats were considered familiars to those magic folk. So I do feel like you've been getting signs, or not, you're being asked to like pay attention to the signs that are coming in forms of numbers and maybe even animal messengers. So when you see one that kind of appears out of the ordinary, stop and maybe, I always want to say first and foremost, before you go to Google, stop and connect with yourself. What is that cat doing or that animal doing? Did it like just whiz past you really quickly? Did it stop and do something interesting? Pay attention, analyze those things, because that's the message. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can Google that specific animal or number and look up its symbolism and what it might represent to you, and see if that does have some sort of, if it's applicable in your life at all. All right. So it looks like we're saying goodbye to an outdated version of self, and that in which was out of balance in our life. There's a divine rebalancing happening. It's already been in motion, and it feels to me like this week we can actually see things starting to click in place, starting to come together. And so don't resist that. And that magic, that part of self that you maybe dulled, because it was there, this has been there all along, but you maybe dulled it because life happens, because you're meant to go through experiences, even the challenging ones, because you're meant to learn and grow, right? And you have. So now we embrace those true parts of self again, or that magic, or those experiences, or those goals, those desires that maybe we always wanted and forgot we did. But now we're doing them in a way that we are more holy ourselves because of having gone through those other experiences. So grab them by the horns and allow yourself to explore and just emit or embody what it is that's happening in your life. It feels incredibly exciting. So with that said, that is our Magical Moon Day message, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any feedback, anything you'd love to share, any way that this aligns and resonates with you in your own life, please don't hesitate to comment. And with that said, I hope to see you next Moon Day, the 24th. I do work that day, but I will try to be here if possible. If not, I will be here the following Moon Day. Take care, everybody. Have a blessed and magical week.